I've been watching you. I've been watching you.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome and welcome back. Today we're going to do Oathbound Breakdown. We are continuing the series. And so if you didn't know, I already did a full recap of the Legendborn and Bloodmarked. So make sure you check those out. I'll have them linked down below. They're also going to be in their own special playlist. But we are continuing with the Oathbound Breakdown. So we already done the prologue, child. We already done part 1. Okay, now we're on part 2, which is Unstoppable. Okay, so we start out, this is like chapter 14 through 22 this time, because part 2 is hefty. Part 2 is thick, okay? So we're going to get through the first part of this part, and then I'll come back, I promise. So chapter 14, this is where we kind of pick up where, you know, Elijah and Zoe, they need to go meet up with someone to get some intel, and they have to go to the rat. But they're currently somewhat babysitting Bree, and they were conflicted on, should you come with us to this? Like, would the Shadow King, would Erebus be pissed off about it? Blah, blah, blah. But eventually they said, okay, we're all going to the rat together. Chapter 15 is where we actually meet Tyson at the rat. He's kind of like the first person that you meet as an introduction. And in order for Bree to enter in on business, she has to kind of basically give up collateral. So not money, but collateral, something that really means something to you. Because again, the hope is that you won't act a fool, so you get what you really want back. Because if you act a fool, you're not getting it back. So he notices the Pendragon necklace, and she does not remember Nick, but she still has memories and feelings associated with this necklace. So at first she was pretty hesitant, but she absolutely said, hell no, you can't take my bracelet. I know that's my mama's bracelet. My mama gave it to me. So that's not happening. So despite her feelings with the Pendragon necklace, she does end up selecting that one over the bracelet. When I was reading this, I'm like, please don't give your bracelet, because I don't know what's about to pop off at the rat, and I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to be very hurt. But so the rat is really kind of giving me Crossroads Lounge vibe in a way. We're learning more about the demon side that can be inside of things. Like, I feel like with Bloodmarked or even Legendborn, we were really focused on the order side of things, and then now we're like we're on demon time. We're on the demon side of things, and it just very much gives me the Crossroads Lounge that Valak owns and runs. And if we recall earlier, this just kind of brought this up for me about how, I believe it was Emilio, I think that's the right name. Anyways, Mariah's cousin rolled up and started talking. Did that already happen, child? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Rose up talking about roof crafter girls going missing, and kind of, you know, saying, you know, and like Valak is basically saying, like, I'm not innocent. Like, I've lived a long time. I've done some things, and that's why he has to Crossroads Lounge to try to like make things right, where he supervises bargains between humans and demons, and make sure it's a fair bargain and everyone fully understands what's going on. Strangely, the rat is where I think Valak wanted to go, but he couldn't go without the Grand Dame. And there seems like to be like bad blood amongst them. And when we learn more about the twins, it definitely makes me feel like there's so many similarities between them and Valak. I wonder if something's brewing there. Anyway, so she gives the Pendragon necklace to Tyson. They allow entry. They go sit at the table. Even she remembers the Crossroads Lounge. She just doesn't remember the people associated with these memories. And we realize even with prompts from Erebus, it's still not ringing any bells for her. And she can't recognize people from her past. And it made me, at first I thought, oh, okay, so you just can't remember people that recently-ish kind of happened. But no, like, she doesn't remember her dad. And I thought that was shocking, because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you would at least know your parents. But she remembers her mom, and I wonder if that's because her mom has passed away and passed over. So that kind of event is pretty solid. So I wonder if that's why she remembers her mom, which kind of gives me hope, because, you know, Alice is still in the balance. So anyways, the twins do realize that this is the Pendragon's necklace and wonder how she got it. She's like, I took it fair and square. I fought for it, got it, blah, blah, blah. So she basically lies about it. But the twins can't know that she is the real scion of Arthur, because that would just open up a whole nother can of worms. So they can't know the truth about her. And this part in particular kind of reminds me of in the beginning of like Legendborn, where she is starting to become a part of the order and getting involved with them. When we first realized she can resist Mesmer, it was very much, you can't let Cell know that you can do that. You can't let anyone know what you can do. And it's kind of like she has to do the same thing again here in Oathbound with the twins. She can't let them know, or anyone at the Rat for that instance, to know who she truly is and what she could truly do. Because that would be a whole nother, that'd be a problem. They get to a table, and the whole point is Elijah is wanting to get intel for Erebus. He wants to keep an eye on the rogues, to maybe give some valuable info to Erebus. So they get to their table. Sid comes to the table. There's an exchange with Elijah. We're led to believe Sid is the owner, so maybe there was some sort of payment to allow them to do business there. We learn more about Cambions. Again, as a refresher, a balanced Cambion is very similar to Merlin, except a Merlin is more human, and balanced Cambions are balanced. There's still incubus and human parents involved. And we learned that once a demon crosses this plane, they become too undead to mate with other demons. So incubus are the exception. And again, very similar to the original Merlin that we learned about. So also around this time, we get some more, I think cool conversations and representation. And I think this is kind of like very important, especially in the YA space. Zoelle asks Bree, like, so who are you into? And like, boy people? And Bree reveals, like, I think people. And around this conversation, it's kind of like you still have time to kind of like figure things out, you just, kind of thing. And I kind of like that discussion is brought up because especially in YA's targeted age group, and even beyond, I feel like with YA, just because you become an adult doesn't mean these obstacles or issues that you face as a young adult just disappear overnight with a magic wand once you turn a certain age. So that's why I feel like YA is still so relatable. But I'm glad we had this conversation here. And also, Bree has to go to the bathroom because she has her period. And I'm glad there's a mention of this because periods are real. Periods are happening. Why not? Why not? So I like the period rep there. So she ends up going to the bathroom and she actually takes a notice of herself. She realizes, like, I'm changing. Like, my body is changing. I'm getting stronger. And she kind of likes who she's becoming, but she still wants a touch of that external validation. And I feel like I can relate to that. I feel like I care less now, but way beyond young adulthood, people still kind of want that external validation or that external support. So, again, I feel like that's so relatable. Chapter 16, Bree's in the bathroom. She hears someone comes in. At first, she thinks it's Zoelle, wondering what's taking her so long, but instead it's a root crafter girl with a white man. And this man can forge a switchblade in the deeper color green that demons forge, but not light green like Cambions. Okay. Again, no one at the Rat should know like all that Bree can do and who Bree is. Bree should just pretend like she's a human girl. And anyway, she catches winds of this. She realizes and recognizes the aura of the root crafter girl. The root crafter girl can see her as well. I don't know if the root crafter girl can see her blood mark or just her power, but the warlock or whatever cannot. And we realize, like, the hunter, also known as the Shadow King, also known as Erebus, is who the Shadow King is mimicking. He still needs to feed just like any other demon, just not as often. So he still has needs. Okay. And warlocks involve pact magic, and they're not very popular around Cambians either. It's like warlock is on the bottom of the totem pole, child. Like, they're not pleased. Like, they just scoff at him. So she begins to wonder, is the hunter like hunting down rootcrafter girls? You know? Because Emilio also, in another part, talked about how rootcrafter girls gone missing. Now we see a rootcrafter girl here with the white man, who we presume is a warlock. And rootcrafter girls, all of them aren't like Bree. All of them don't have like unlimited power across lines kind of thing. They have their ancestral lineage, and if too much is drained from them and goes too far, it can ultimately lead that rootcrafter girl fractured, and it'll be like a type of death for them. Is like leaving them truly detached from who they are. So, anyways, needless to say, Bree is like more badass now, and I think Bree is becoming more and more badass, because I think once you remove that guilt and that weight, because think about it, she was weighed down by, Nick. He wanted away from the order. She's the only reason why he's back in it, and back in it thick. She is, feeling guilty about the relationship, even though she doesn't remember these people specifically right now, with Sel, though, and that dynamic with Sel, and the call and response with Nick, and then, Alice wasn't even supposed to be a part of this at all. Now she's in it deep, and we had to save her. Now she's a part of it. And then I hope she's okay, because when I was possessed with King Arthur, she got mollywopped. Then Patricia Hartwood got involved. I hope they're okay. Blew up Volition and pissed off Vera, got into it, Vera, burned the lines with them, severed ties with King Arthur, really made a dent in everyone's lives that I touched with, Valak and Aunt Lou and Hazel and the Volition, and, calling too much attention to her ancestors, making a deal with Erebus, self-sacrificing himself for her. I mean, it's just, there's not a person in her life that has, and then her dad, like her poor dad left in the dark, and doesn't know all that's going on. When you have so much weight and guilt on you, it's almost stifling, and it's almost like you're buried alive. And I think, whether knowingly or not knowingly, I mean, Erebus act like he don't know that this is not a typical mesmer, and he act like he don't know nothing about what he did to her. But I think not having that guilt on her is allowing her to be free and to be a badass. So she's over here, contemplating, I'm about to save you, blah, blah, blah. The rootcrafter girl is trying to save her. Like, no, lady, please do not try to do that. The warlock kind of notices that Bree can see like the magic he's foraging. So the rootcrafter girl just writes it off as like, oh, you're really going to do all of this for a girl who just has a gift of sight or whatever. So anyways, they got out free. They scouted away the white man and the rootcrafter girl, but don't worry, that'll come up later. Chapter 17, we have a Crucial who is a full demon, as a reminder, who can mimic people. Is sitting at the table. Ryaisyaiu brings a trophy, particularly a coin from a bank robbery in the 70s, tainted with human greed. So you have to bring a trophy of like value of some things, and Reggie's basically bringing intel, like, have you heard someone has taken the Merlins out? Maybe that's good intel for the hunter. Elijah doesn't see what this has anything to do with us. It seems like everyone else's problem, not our problem. Don't call them Crossroads child either, because that's an insult. A shade, like a nightshade, has a lead on who has the crown. Since there are rebel shades, until the king takes his crown, you can't speak, reason, or approach the shades without tribute or a trophy or something. And we make it very clear that the king's crown is not lost; it is hidden/stolen. The Morgains, which I think, especially in the fourth book, we're going to get a lot more of the Morgains. But the Morganes got overconfident and laxed with the crown. So basically they enchanted the crown though, so it can be untouchable by demon hands. So theoretically a warlock, as they are human with pact magic, could touch the crown because they're not demon. But only a Morgane can remove a Morgane spell. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about something that happens ahead of time. And I'm like, this is just getting twistier and twistier, child. So then you must be wondering, okay, so if Reggie's providing this intel, what does he want? Well, Reggie's working under a shade and he wants out. He's sick of it, okay? And the shade that he's working under is 𝙳𝚍, I believe. And 𝙳𝚍 is just never going to go back under the king's rule, even if the king has his crown again. She's just not going to do it. So all he's asking for is that they plead Reggie's case for when, the Shadow King does get his crown back, to maybe like work under him, be in his good graces, because he wants out. And the king needs his crown in order to cross back over to the demon plane. So back so long ago, back when King Arthur did his craziness and took the crown and all this other business, that nearly killed the Shadow King. Like, it nearly killed him. And once he didn't have his crown, he also didn't have shades. It left the Nightshades fractured. It left them discombobulated. It left them just like, okay, they don't have a ruler, so they're figuring out their own stuff. All right, chapter 18, we have Erebus. He returns early the next morning. I notice that he treats Bree and the twins differently. Like, the twins are his subjects, and they have to bow down to him. Bree isn't his equal necessarily, but Bree is not his subject. And so while no one is Erebus' equal, he is not without vulnerabilities. And shadow walking, I'm pretty sure that's what he did in the very beginning when it came to like, transportation, like we're all the way over here. That takes a lot of amount of energy. And I think he has to do that quite frequently when he's masquerading as Erebus. So just keep that in mind. That takes a lot of energy, a lot of things. So like, does he need Rootcrafters girls to like sustain himself? I mean, he does, but like apparently not as often as other demons do. And Bree kind of asked him this, like, have you hunted Rootcrafter girls? He said he had, but not recently. Then she's like basically asked him, do you hire warlocks to do it? And he just kind of like the audacity. Child, what I need with a warlock kind of thing. I don't know, Erebus, but you might want to, I don't know. If demons can't touch your crown, you might want to just pause on that. For some reason, we have a discussion about Merlin's being hot, like running hot. I can't really remember how we got into this, but she remembered that Merlin's do run hot because of her memories of Cell, not knowing who Cell is, apparently. But Erebus catches her up to speed, lets her know that, hey, Cell actually sacrificed himself for you. He's a king's mage, and you basically wanted him to go with his mama. So not only did he sacrifice himself for you, but now he is away from his oaths. So now he's with his mama, just suffering, and away from his duties. And this is all to amplify Bree's guilt, I think. But she doesn't take the bait. She actually like flips it in her own way of defiance towards him. And she kind of asks him, is the crown your great and necessary loss? Chapter 19. All right. Now, in order to be unstoppable, as this part suggests, she needs to train. Okay. So, we're going to train and get better with our constructs, not only protection, but fighting wise. So he conjures up 3 hell foxes, and the Shadow King / Erebus, he doesn't command just one form of power. He commands 3. So the first one is a silver blue, like a Merlin, kind of like the, as he's masquerading as Erebus kind of thing. For who knows how long he's been masquerading as that. 2 is green yellow, kind of like you would see with the 𝙳𝚑 or 𝙳𝚑. And then the third one is very unique to him as he is the caster, which is an obsidian black smoke. So he's basically like, you need to defend, protect, and attack. She says, I can't attack and defend at the same time. And he said, well, learn. And he's very much hands-on. Throw you in the water. Please, you will figure it out, child. You don't know? Figure it out. And you know what? I don't hate his teaching style all the way, because some people really do. Like, if you don't know, can you try to figure it out, please? But anyways, she is working on a second layer of her construct, working beneath it to repair it. He said, that's good. Now, how long can you keep this up? Because Merlin's at the age of 8 or 9. They can do this for about an hour. Key's mage, they could do about 6 hours before they break. So we'll see where you land, Bree. So she is left to fight these health foxes that seem very, very real. She doesn't know how long it's been. And she doesn't draw on Author's armor until the end. Lo and behold, she lasts 4 hours and 27 minutes. And we learned that those hell foxes, bears, all those things are actually illusions. And it actually benefits her to believe they are real for her training. He wants her to do it again. And he even suggests, why don't you call on your ancestors? Like, use your blood, call on them. You know, why are you waiting till the end to call on Arthur, kind of thing? And so she has to reveal the truth. Like, I burned those streams. I burned my ancestral streams. And so she can't blood walk anymore. And conversely, those spirits can't demand anything of her anymore. And so she doesn't have access to Arthur's memories, nor can she invite a possession. She's just kind of like, why would I want to invite a possession? Did we not forget what just happened at the end of Bloodmark? Child. No. So anyways, he's just like, but if a Morgaine has his crown, he thinks that basically one of Bree's ancestors, could be the answer or the key to figuring this out. And Bree is just like, but they would never help me / you to do that. And Shadow King's like, they might if I threaten to end their bloodline. And then he makes a comment like, I guess we'll never know what kind of medium you shall become. And I'm like, damn, son. Sheesh. Anyways, we also get a quote towards the end that I kind of feel like it's worth noting. I don't feel like it was written here for nothing, but it says shadows are born from both light and darkness. And she makes a comment like she is like not born of shadows. I don't know. That on my reread, I just feel like that meant something. Anyways, chapter 20. Bree is starting to leak guilt. Huh? Like, she's starting to leak guilt. I'm not really too sure why she's starting to leak guilt, honestly. But Shadow King does have new wisp of like root. Like it's like he got that smell on him. You know what I mean? Meaning he's recently fed from root. Okay. He thinks that Bree is leaking from their past interaction, and she says yes, but apparently this is a lie. And so I wonder, like, now that Erebus told her that Selwyn, sacrificed himself for her and all this other stuff, do she feel guilty about that? Or do she feel guilty about not saving the root crafter girl because now it looks like someone got recently fed on something? Anyways, apparently that's a lie. We learn more about Elijah and Zoel. They actually have been serving Shadow King for 5 years. Their dad was like a trusted shade or something to Erebus, and child, I don't know what happened to him, but we'll get there in a minute. But as a favor, Erebus is taking them under his wing. Anyways, he's kind of treating them crazily, and Bree doesn't like that. So then Bree kind of reveals about the whole like 𝙳𝚍, the nightshade, might know where your crown is. This is where Bree and the Shadow King bump heads. She is very much like, I don't give a fuck. She is very much fuck around and find out. I don't know who you think you're talking to. She's very much more sure of herself. Very much badass Bree, honestly. And I love that. Elijah kind of comes to the Erebus's, defense. He's like, I do not need protection. I don't need you defending me. Let's be clear. Okay. And I kind of feel bad for the twins because Erebus lets them know, you guys are replaceable. Okay. You guys are a subject. You guys are a blink in the eternity of time. Bree is a once in a lifetime, once in a millennium confluence. You know, y'all are not the same. Y'all are opposite in every way. Okay. So she don't need to bow down to me. She don't do da-da-da-da. Like y'all not the same. Okay. So apparently we talk about that. We find out if Deja knows something, then it's going to be like no point, you know. But they start discussing, I think without the Shadow King there, and just kind of talk about how the king keeps a collection of artifacts or tributes in the barn. And, you know, again, if you want to talk to a shade, if you want to reason with them, you need to bring them a tribute. You need to bring them a trophy of some sort. The older, the better. The more pain-soaked, the better. Again, they feed off those emotions. The more that they consume from it to hold over between feedings. So you want to give them something worth their while. But apparently Erebus has some artifacts in a barn, but it is covered with an effective ward. An effective ward, okay? Meaning your emotions, your thoughts, what you see is going to be heavily impacted if you try to cross this ward. The twins act like, you know, we can't get into that barn. And it, you know, it's too powerful. And Bria's like, but is it too powerful? Like, is it too tough for me? Okay, period. So she plunges her hand into the ward, and instead of using words to kind of break through, images are a lot more potent than words. And I feel like that's very true even in real life. People are most probably drawn to seeing something versus reading something. But anyway, she starts using words. And then we have her purple claws. Like we have this dragon imagery again. And she's like, this feels good. Like it feels like a stretch. And then she lights up this damn ward. The ward is fully lit now. Elijah and Zoel wants her to stop, but Bree don't give a fuck. Okay. She's like, no, period. I'm going to keep going. She doesn't want to. She's becoming unstoppable on her own accord. And the ward shatters. Child, it tried to break me, but I broke it. Period. I think we should feel like that with life. Life tried to break me, I break it. How about that? And they're like, how? Da, da, da. And she's just like, because once you lose everyone, fear loses its advantage. Damn. Whew. And when she said that, they're like, child, you kind of sound like the king. And she's like, yeah, I am kind of sounding like the king. But I love this dragon imagery, and I hope we get so much more of it in book 4, because I've been wanting this ever since we kind of got the scales and stuff like that. But she has purple scales that ends up breaking apart in her hands and arms. But rather than falling, the shining dust particles disappear beneath her skin, returning to her. Yeah, period. I love that dragon imagery. I think it's so important. I just love dragons and stories. I'm just glad she's a dragon, a purple dragon. I don't know. Anyways, it just got me really excited. So anyways, now chapter 21. I'm going to bring out my ebook for this, but it's very short. We're basically 3 months after Selwyn Kane appeared. We're back with Natasha's point of view in this one. And this is her audio log entry 101. And she is just basically quickly recounting about how Selwyn has escaped 2 days ago, and before that 5 days ago. So the interval between these disappearing acts are getting shorter, not longer. And the amount of time it takes for her to locate him in the mountains is getting longer, not shorter. She realizes that if Selwyn wants to leave my home, he will find a way. It is only about his choice that he stays. Second, the trials of blood that led me to him are sometimes black and sometimes red, but they never belonged to him. And third, when my son was a child, I was more powerful than him in every way. I am no longer certain that this is true. And then we're going to have to finish this up in another video. So thank you guys so much for watching this one. Yes. Wow. We're getting into the thick of it, y'all. We're getting into the thick of it. And I just wonder, like, what does this mean for Selwyn as we move forward? If you read the entire book, you already know what this means. But it's just kind of nice to see what happens with Bree versus what happens with everyone else and their own timeline. So in the next part, we're going to get into William's point of view in chapter 22. So we're going to be back with them. But I really love this version of Bree. I really love that she's badass. And I hate that she forgot the important people that's still alive in her world. But I feel like once she's been free of that guilt and like associating that memory with a person, it's allowed her to truly become free. And something that happens or like later, I just kind of wonder how we're going to deal with that whole enchantment on the crown for Erebus. Anyways, I'm just pondering things. I'm just pondering things now. But yeah, anyways, yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe. Okay, subscribe, please. Make sure you like this video. Please leave a comment. I will be working on the second part of part 2. So don't you worry, don't you fret, but you need to subscribe so you know when that will be premiering. And yeah, make sure you check out the other videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, peace.